Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm coming to you with a mail haul. It's an odd assortment of stuff, not very big. It's not huge like the one we started off the weekend with. It's a gray, overcast day. It's been like this for a few days now, but I'm not complaining because the temperatures are steadily going up. The one thing I hate more than anything else about the winter, I'm not a big fan of snow, not a big fan of sleet, especially when you have to take someone out in it who hates it. But the thing I hate most about winter is uncertain footing. I know that sounds very old person of me, but nevertheless, even 28-year-olds can fear slipping on the ice, or you suddenly find yourself ankle deep in ice cold slush. I don't like uncertain footing. So when I see the ground covered in snow and ice, in the back of my mind, every time I go out, I'm thinking, could I have my sidewalks back? And the higher the temperature goes here, the more of my sidewalks I'm going to get back. I can take blowing wind and snow. I can take cold, provided I have solid footing. And that is coming back. Very happy about that because despite the fact that I am down in the depths of deadline heck, and I am, I am, I wouldn't be if I were any other jobbing freelancer in the world. I wouldn't be in the depths of deadline heck. I would have resigned. Or I would know that I'm going to be fired because I'm going to fail. If I were anyone else, if I weren't the fastest gun east of the Pecos, this simply wouldn't be I wouldn't be in hell because it wouldn't be possible for me to do. It is, so I am. But nevertheless, despite the fact that I'm down in the bowels of deadline heck, I do have real-world errands. I had a couple that I had to run yesterday, or a couple that I have to run tomorrow. They simply will not wait. They don't care about deadlines. So I have to put on my big boy pants, say goodbye to my bean, and do errands tomorrow, at least a few of them. And that cuts into time. So once again, I got a huge lump of work done last night, and tonight the dream here, the ideal dream would be for me to get all the rest of this work done tonight. For those of you who are new to the channel, I don't require as much sleep as you do, and I can forego it. For periods of time, I can forego it. I like, for instance, I wouldn't need to sleep tonight anyway until 3:30, something like that. And if 3:30 came around and I had stuff to do, I could just skip it until 3 or 3:30 the next night. I might do that, especially if I get close. I may be able to close the gap to getting almost done with this freak deadline thing that I have to do, this rock of Sisyphus. It's possible that I might get within smelling distance of the finish line. If I do that, I'm not going to roll over and go to bed. I'm not going to do that. I'm not as fond of the nightly coma as the rest of you are, where you hug your pillows. Oh, I can't wait. Is 7:30 too early to go to bed? Anyway, that is to say, I'm close. Not what a normal person would consider close. A normal person would say, what? You still have an undoable amount of work to do between now and the 10th. It's an undoable amount of work. What do you mean you're close? Well, we shall see. Although, I got to tell you, if I manage to do this, I'm going to be insufferable. Even more insufferable than usual. Oh, sure. There are plenty of my reviewing brethren out in the world of the London Review and the New York Review or the Wall Street Journal who have a much higher profile, and people go to them for profundity and exquisite word choice and whatnot. But to misquote a John Wayne movie, who do they call? The old rat killer. You've gone to seed, Rooster. Gone to seed. Look at your belly. You can't even close your coat over it. Oh, I never wear this coat except when I'm in your court. And it was always good enough for you when you needed what was in it. I think I can succeed. On those days, I tell you, Rumpole could live forever. But I have to take time out to talk to my imaginary BookTube friends now, don't I? I can't just... You might be wondering, if you're this crushed by deadlines, what are you nattering on about the weather for? I need my time. I need my FaceTime on all of your 50-inch plasma screen TVs. So we're going to look at the mail. I did a couple of other videos I was going to have to do, and then I will try to find time tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the tough one because I have errands to do. That's going to cut into time as it is. But if I can get a huge amount of work done tonight, I won't feel so bad about nattering on about the weather tomorrow. But anyway, first of all, we'll look at the periodicals. We have the large and the small of it here in the periodicals. So the first one is the greatest literary journal in the Western world, the TLS, the Times Literary Supplement. This just came in the mail. The Times Literary Supplement does longer reviews. They roam all over the place, but they can be very abstruse. They will sometimes pick literary journals or whatnot to review, or extremely abstruse technical academic press titles that don't get general circulation reviews elsewhere. Oh. Okay. All right. Well, those of you who are curious, this is what the new TLS looks like. I just looked at the table of contents. I will not be reading this issue. But the other periodical that came, I certainly will be rereading. And that is this, the Bedford Times Press from Bedford, Iowa. A tiny little local newspaper that has, there are some of the local miscreants. there are always articles about high school awards and high school sports and whatnot. And on the first page in the Bedford Times Press, the first thing you see when you open the paper is my column. They give me a very nice amount of space for a book column, 1,000 words a week, on whatever bookish subject happens to interest me for that week. I write my column on the weekend. I absolutely love it. And the Bedford Times Press is paywall. There is no digital free version of this, so you would have to go to their website. I think I list it on every video, and subscribe if you want it's not a big paper, and I'm under no illusions that the rest of it will interest you. If you don't live in Taylor County, the rest of it won't interest you. But my book column is not about Iowa, and it's not about Taylor County. It's not about high school sports or anything like that. It's a general interest book column that I would very much like to see run in your town. It's general interest. It would appeal to anyone. If you have a local newspaper and you are always, or other people that you know are always looking at it and saying, there's nothing good to read in here, well, my rates are very reasonable. But if you want a weekly book column by me, a physical thing that you can put in your scrapbook and whatnot, then you would have to go to the Bedford Times Press and subscribe. And if the weekly book column by me is the reason you're subscribing, feel free to mention that. I'm sure there's a pertinent email on the website. An editor, a managing editor, feel free to mention I'm subscribing, even though I live 1,000 miles away from Taylor County, Iowa, for the Ex Libris column by Steve Donoghue, because I think he's the bee's knees. Now, this little teaser, how does this one begin? Let's read just the beginning of this. You get the sense of what you're missing, the FOMO. Despite the fact that both sides of my family are 100% Irish, going back to the days of Brian Boru, I'm not typically an omen-conscious person. This is especially true when it comes to books, since the American publishing industry is always throwing unexpected new things and interesting old things at me willy-nilly, with no real regard for the whims of the calendar. Nevertheless, I'm tempted to consider January a good omen when it comes to my reading life, which, apart from my bossy little schnauzer, is pretty much my entire life. My reading year is off to a very good start, and that's always encouraging. It's not just a matter of statistics, of course, although in this case the statistics are reassuringly strong. I've read a satisfyingly large number of books in January, spent a satisfyingly large number of hours every day, and fairly covered a spread of genres and subject matters that tend to interest me. But like I say, it's more than just quantity. The quality of my January reading was superb. And it goes on from there to talk about my January reading, and the only place that you can get this is in the Bedford Times Press, so feel free to go ye forth and subscribe. But then we've got actual mail, and the first thing is bringing back memories, because it's an Amazon package. And just the other day, yesterday, one of you sent me a book. You ordered me a book on Amazon, sent it to me. People do that with such regularity that I often am tempted to forget how rare it is. How that doesn't happen in the rest of YouTube. We have another Amazon package here, and I'm hoping that another one of you has not gone to the bother of sending books to me. Okay, all right. Forestall that reprimand. This is actually something I ordered for myself and quite forgot. Sarah at the Bookish Knitter, great romance booktube channel that I urge you all to go and subscribe, even especially if you're not interested in romance. She and I do the same shtick. we have the same old battered Broadway showstoppers. We both just turn on the camera and talk to you about our bookish interests, mixing liberal amounts of our life into the mixture. I'll leave a link to her channel, but it's well worth your time to go and watch. I do like romances, and I like them a lot more the more I've watched romance booktubers. And Sarah and Bree do a great podcast, the Categorically Romance podcast, They talk about themes and issues. They talk about books. They interview authors. A lot of that. They've even had me on the show a couple of times. It is about category romance, which is the most despised. I mean, romance is condescended to anyway by the rest of the reading world, but category romances are condescended to even by other romance readers. But category is those Harlequin romances that you probably remember growing up. Maybe your mother or your grandmother read them. The Harlequin or the Mills and Boon that are very formulaic. There's Harlequin Presents. There's Harlequin Heartwarming. There was a Mills and Boon medical line where the protagonist was always a nurse. That sort of thing. The supernatural things, a little steamier thing for desire or temptation or things like that. Harlequin does a broad spectrum of those every month. It's a great way for authors to meet their fans. It's a great way for authors to build a fan base. And some authors who started in the category romances and then built such an audience or such sales figures that they then moved on to the mainstream romance world still write category romances because the whole ecosystem is so welcoming, it's so warm. And, as in anything, right, because keep in mind what I say on this channel all the time, there is no hierarchy of artistic forms. Let's repeat that again. There is no hierarchy of artistic forms. Okay? Biography is not a better kind of writing just de facto than romance is. There is no category of artistic forms. Okay? So multi-part radio melodramas are not inherently inferior to Greco-Roman sculpture. They are just two kinds of artistic forms. That's all. There are no hierarchies of artistic forms. The only hierarchy is skill of execution. That's it. That's all. That's the only one. And that, of course, jumps apart. It makes no sense to compare the skill of execution of a romance novel or a category romance to the skill of execution of a medical memoir. It's confined, in other words, the kind of thing that it is. Obviously, right? Which is why we don't have horses compete in human Olympics. And so, once we acknowledge that fact, because if you acknowledge that fact, you are free from snobbery. Only snobs think there is a hierarchy of artistic form. They're the only people who do. Normal people who aren't snobs, know that the whole question of up and down on a spectrum is skill of execution. How well is it done? How good an example of this artistic form is this? And that is true in category romance, the same as it's true in mainstream romance or science fiction or fantasy or anything else. Sarah and Bree can tell you, I'm sure, they have a lot more experience in this than I do. They can tell you there are plenty of category romances that stink, like meat left out in the sun. And there are some that are superb. I read one just last month. I read an older category romance that did a superb job of what it was doing. You read it, you're 20 pages in, and you realize, okay, I now see what the plot of this is, and I know what this would look like if you just sleepwalk your way through it. You'll still get your paycheck. You'll still get your name on the cover. People will still collect it. There are plenty of people who never miss a category romance, but it isn't any good. It won't be any good. There are plenty, looking at this plot structure, there are plenty of ways that you can just sleepwalk through this, and you're not. You're not doing that. Instead, you're putting a lot of effort and skill into this. This is a long throat-clearing way of saying that Sarah and Bree invited me to do a read-along. They're doing a read-along of a category romance. I don't know quite when. Sarah will let me know. She's accustomed to cleaning up after me. So, as I never know the details of anything. She just reminds me, and then I show up. But they picked a book, and it seemed intriguing to me. I would probably have picked it myself if Harlequin Romance's website weren't such a car crash. I would probably have picked it myself. It's this. It's by Ellie Jackson, and it's called A Blues Singer to Redeem Him. It's a Harlequin historical. They do 4 of these a month, set in, I assume, in the jazz era. Let's see what we have here. Evelyn LaRocque's performances at Lorenzo DeLuca's Kansas City Blues Club draw even bigger crowds than his bootleg whiskey. So we're going to Kansas City during the Prohibition. And every time he hears her voice, Lorenzo falls a little harder for the achingly beautiful blues singer. When Evelyn becomes a target for the KKK, Lorenzo faces an impossible choice. Will this son of a gangster turn to the mob if it's the only way to protect the woman he loves? And I realized when they invited me that I didn't have a copy of this, so I went to Amazon and ordered it right away. Do we have a date here? 1921. 1921 is when Evelyn's story starts. Probably the main story starts, a little bit later than that. But I'm going to start on this I want to say tonight. I might not start tonight. I really can't justify reading anything until my deadline is done. But at least I have this. Great. So this is a category romance. Those of you who have never tried one might want to try one. I guarantee you that it's a whole new reading experience for you. Definitely, if you're intimidated or maybe still a little condescending towards this, go and listen to a bunch of the Categorically Romance podcast episodes. If I can, I will remember to leave a link. I'm not even sure how I link to a podcast, but if I can, I'll remember to leave a link. They're always fun. Those episodes are always fun. And they will demystify this little corner of the romance world for you. Fantastic. All right, so that was one I ordered myself. Then we have one of these big white envelopes. This feels like a finished copy. It's nice and hefty. And then we'll end with a box. This is a finished copy. Okay, good. What have we got here? Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. Do I have a sheet of any kind on this thing? No, I do not. All right, we've seen the advanced copy of this. This is by A.J. Bain, who did The Accidental President. That was just fantastic. And it's White Lies, the double life of Walter F. White and America's Darkest Secret, with the requisite hideous American cover, out of focus sepia tone photo. And the person in the middle of that photo is Walter F. White. And his story is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Those of you who don't remember this, let's read a bit of this. Born mixed race and with very fair skin and straight hair, Walter Francis White was light enough to pass as Caucasian, though he was a black man raised in a middle-class, educated black community in Atlanta. Early on, he realized his physical appearance allowed him to move in and out of the white world with ease. This proved pivotal as Walter was a race man and completely devoted to uplifting and advancing the black race during a violent, racially charged era of the Jim Crow South. Walter took unthinkable risks in his work. He traveled to the Deep South posing as a white man to investigate lynchings, racist murders, and riots. Then he would travel back north to report his findings to black newspapers and to a relatively new organization called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP. Walter's investigations spurred the NAACP to national prominence and regularly garnered national headlines. He went on to head the organization, turning it into a political juggernaut. He had full access to the Oval Offices of FDR and Harry Truman, and he was arguably the most powerful force in the historic realignment of black power from the Republican to the Democratic Party. And he did that all literally traveling between two worlds. Can you imagine the danger involved in doing that? Can you imagine the sheer amount of courage that guy in the middle had to have to do that? Just amazing to me. Just amazing. And of course, this begs to be made into a movie. And if I were, no one's ever going to hand me a Hollywood budget, but if I were a Hollywood director, the way that I would choose to make the point would be to cast a white actor. That will never happen. But I don't know that this will ever be made into a movie. The key would be to make your audience uncomfortable, I would think. And also to make their heart in their throat when Walter White is risking everything, as he would have done crossing either of those boundaries. It's not like all the risks entail and just in him, traveling down into the Deep South during a lynching era as a black man. There's also danger attendant to him shifting identities when he gets back up north. I am commissioned to review this, so I'm very happy to have the finished copy. The finished copy has the full length of the full breadth of photos. It has the full bibliography, so that I'll know what I'm talking about. That's good. But I've already read it, and I'm very much looking forward to the reread. Although I can't do the reread tonight. Anyway. The last thing is a box, and it's very, very light, so it might not be a book. Wait, I think I know what this is. And if I'm right, it's not a book. I think I got an email about this just the other day. Here, let's tear it apart. It's over-taped, as all private packages are. Fortunately, I have almost no sense of touch, so I can just use my fingers as crowbars. That's not a big deal. Oh, this is exactly what I thought it was. Fantastic. Hannah at Hannah's Books knitted me a hat. Do you want to see this, Boone? It's a very nice hat, but it has an extra feature. It has horns. Oh my. This is that is fantastic. Oh, I'm going to wear this in the house. This is very, very nice of Hannah to do. If you're watching, Hannah, thank you very, very much. And it's also a bit of her tongue-in-cheek commentary on the fact that in some precincts of BookTube, I am the devil incarnate still. Even though now the number of people who have come to this room in Hyde Cottage and seen perfectly well that I am not the devil incarnate. Oh, do I want to wrap this around? So the horns are forward, or the horns in the exact middle? They might be. What's that, baby? Huh? What's that? This was partially a commentary on that. That the fact that there are people out there who still have that attitude, who in fact who propagate it among strangers. Oh, you better watch out for him. He's the devil incarnate. Knowing nothing at all. They know nothing at all. They've never encountered me. They've never had anything to do with me. I am fairly nice. I am fairly generous. I am a fairly happy person. There's nothing Satan incarnate about me at all. But now I've got the hat. So that is great. That kind of sarcastic commentary. I love it. I absolutely love it. What a way to end a mail haul. All right, well, I've got a hat. We're not going out again for a couple of hours, but I can't wait to see the reactions I get to this thing. That is just awesome. And the aforementioned errands that I have to do tomorrow, you can bet your sweet Bippy I will be wearing this thing for them. I'm going to get a lot of comments. Wonderful. All right, so books and a hat. Great. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.